There are a number of things that I want to get to with Billy Corben today. Ron McGill, and Billy Corben is trying to get Ron McGill to run for office, and it is quite the wrestling match. It's like wrestling an alligator because he doesn't want to run for office. We've got some depressing stuff with Lolita the Killer Whale. I can't believe that Miami Seaquarium and that whole thing still exists, a whale being kept in captivity and not having the money to keep it alive. It's horribly sad. The Clevelander at the forefront of keeping Miami open a little later so people can drink a little later. But I want to start with Billy Corben's got some objections to me and the way that I've been talking about this highlight deal that Chris Cody has...
Saving highlight, Dano.
Chris Cody has maneuvered and manufactured, so he is now an owner of a highlight team. And Billy,
why are you laughing, Billy?
Billy wanted to reprimand me here.
I'm not laughing. I think it's fantastic. First, I think it's we should have a new segment called Know Your Sponsor. Dan keeps referring to them as Miami Highlight. First of all, Miami Highlight doesn't exist anymore. They haven't had Highlight for over a year. This is Magic City Casino. It is the last Highlight Fronton in the United States of America. So that's first and foremost. Let's define our terms, right?
I've gotten it wrong, but I think of Miami. When I think of Highlight, I think of Dania and I think of Miami Highlight, but this is the last known place where Highlight is played, and South Florida has been responsible for bringing this to America.
You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of when Uncle Luke was running for Miami-Dade County mayor back in 2011, and he kept referring to the city of Miami, and we kept having to remind him that you're running for mayor of the county, not mayor of the city. Dan, it's Magic City Casino. It's not Miami Highlight.
Chris Cody, one more time, tell the people what it is that you're doing who might not be familiar with your work. You have been granted ownership of a Miami Highlight team, and on the 20th, you are going to be out there trying to resurrect what I still think is Miami Highlight.
But the season is going on right now. They're getting away from the individual and the doubles matches where you're really just looking at individual players, and they're going for teams. So there's 4 teams in this league. I'm the owner of one of them. It's a 9-week season. They're in the middle of it right now. And they're just trying to have a different take on it. It's like the same. It's like the same way to get points, but they're just making teams, and they're trying to get people interested in it by making it teams rather than individuals.
Is Roy going to? You guys have been a buddy cop content team. You've gone to the Honda Classic. You were supposed to go out with Kenny Mayne, but that fell apart. I don't know why that fell apart. Roy, was it just awkward hanging out between you and Kenny Mayne? Was it just you two? Chris Cody was supposed to go, but didn't make it there, I assume, because he was drinking too much in the morning.
No, not awkward at all. It was actually a fun time hanging out with Kenny and Benton the Ponies. It was excellent.
Are you going to do this with Chris Cody? Are you going to be there on the 20th?
With all the Brian Flores stuff going on, I wanted to hire Roy as my head coach. That's like something I wanted to do.
Absolutely. I accept the job.
I think that's exciting.
With all the Brian Flores news going on, that's the qualification that Roy has for the job.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't have said that. I just thought it'd be funny with all that stuff, like, you know.
That you're
maybe
the
my first
manager.
order of business, because, like, if I'm being honest, when this first came across my desk was, like, right when that Brian Flores stuff happened. Yeah. So I thought it would be a funny thing if my first act was to hire a black head coach.
And I will tell you right now that there was really one black professional highlight player in the history of the game until Magic City Casino started with this highlight. They started to hire former University of Miami athletes, and they hired literally the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th black professional highlight players in the history.
You did a documentary on this.
I did a documentary about it.
Conveniently enough.
So this is where I take exception to this whole thing. I don't know where to begin with the total abdication of ethics and abandonment of integrity that Greg Cody's article breaking this news is. If there was some kind of professional journalistic regulating or sanctioning body like the ABA, the American Bar Association, is for lawyers, they would terminate Greg Cody, they would suspend his editors, and they would probably cease publication of the Miami Herald sports section for several weeks, if not months.
Let's explain to the audience.
You just walked me into something here. Now
I did not
getting my
mean to
dad
do
fired
this.
all of a sudden.
I did not mean to do this. Billy Corben is an unhinged loose cannon who will take any opportunity that he can to bury your father. But now that we're here, I did not intend this. Billy, your hands are shaking. Just hold on a second. Let me get to this story. I need to explain to the audience what you're talking about. Greg Cody of the Miami Herald reported, Scoops Cody, that his son was going to be a new owner of a highlight team that is not Miami Highlight, but is Magic City Casino. And no place in that article was there any revelation that that was his son that he was writing about.
Dan, Dan, first of all, the man is writing about effectively a sponsored bit on a show that he has been a regular contributor to for decades, where his son is on the payroll. He writes about his son as if he's never met him before, okay? Quotes him like he's a stranger who gave him a quick phoner, okay?
Good quote.
And
It was a good quote.
I don't even know that you said it, but it was a good quote.
It was a
okay?
good quote.
I
think he might have wrote.
My team put it
might have
together.
wrote it instead.
It's
PR staff. Yeah.
It's
Handlers.
riddled with it's effectively paid content with no such disclaimer, riddled with misinformation. Like Scott is the CEO. That was news to the CEO, Barbara Havenick, by the way, that Scott has been promoted. He's the COO, but of course, Greg probably wasn't listening to the interview where Scott also explained to him that Billy Corben, to refer to myself in the third person in an Nixonian or Trumpian way, was probably responsible for this whole thing through our documentary Magic City Hustle, now streaming at MagicCityHustle.com. And of course, Greg wanted to hear nothing about that. He tuned out the second he heard
Little Greg Cody and everybody with that promotion.
The second he heard Billy Corben, he tuned out and didn't even get the title of the man, Scott Savin, that he was interviewing correct in the article. I know more about the interview that Greg Cody did with Scott Savin than Greg Cody knows about it, which is par for the course.
Victoria de Pinguis. What I always tell the team.
I was stunned when you were quoted using Latin. I was stunned. I'm like, where did this quote come from? The ownership
Success
has
for fat.
already gone to his head.
That's what it means.
You've now gotten us in trouble. I'm sure, Chris, you know that your dad's not going to like any of this, and now we're in
They'll
trouble
probably get him
again.
more clicks. I think we're good.
Well, he did get a lot of clicks on the highlight story, but let's talk about a couple of other things going on in South Florida and with our show. What are you doing with McGill? He does not want to run for politics. He does not want to run for mayor. He does not want to be a commissioner. He does not want to be a politician.
We approached him quietly. I have to talk about it now because there's a newspaper article about it, and Ron went right on the record. Ron gets a call from Doug Hanks, who covers county government for the Miami Herald, does an exceptional job at that, and got a tip. It was not from any of the people in the room, by the way, who went there in I don't want to say secrecy, but with an understanding that we were going to make this pitch and we were going to proceed quietly until such time as Ron saw
Ron
fit.
does not want to do this. You are trying to persuade Ron to do this. Why?
I think we need better people to run for office. I think everybody bitches at me about, Billy, all you do is hang a lantern on the problems. You always say what's wrong, but what are your solutions? And my solutions always are find better people to run for government and recruit them and vote for those people. Vote better, get better government. And I think Ron McGill equals better government. Ron, unlike Carlos Jimenez, the former mayor of Miami-Dade County, a classic kind of corrupt villain who has been directing millions upon billions of dollars to his family to profit from the public largesse of the county government, which has over a $9 billion budget, including his cousin's bankrupt construction company, MCM, who built the FIU bridge that collapsed, killing six people, and they still get tens of millions of dollars in county contracts and state of Florida contracts because of those political connections. And you think you build a bridge that collapses and kills six people, you go out of business. Well, they filed for bankruptcy. They changed their name from Munia Construction Management to Magnum Construction Management, still MCM, filed for bankruptcy to get protection from the survivors of the people who were effectively murdered by negligent homicide by them and the bridge designers and other companies. So they were off the hook. Their insurance company settled, and now they get a new $70 million contract at the airport. It's just dirty. And Jimenez doesn't even live in the district, which, by the way, is allowed in Congress, but wouldn't you prefer your congressperson to live in the district? So I looked at the district, and I looked at Ron McGill's activism, and I saw how people reacted when he took a stand on Calusa. And when he showed up at that meeting, when he came on the show to talk about it.
For those who do not know, Ron McGill had a minute in front of government officials and got really mad that his minute, a lot of people filibustered talking about something he cared about deeply. He saw a lot of people in the room who were paid to be in the room, and he was frustrated. And it was a bit of a viral moment for the show to see him agitated because he's a nice man, and he really is just trying to protect the animals and protect his community.
And that's the truth, is that I think Carlos Jimenez disqualified himself from federal office alone when he voted against verifying the free and fair 2020 election on January 6th and 7th of 2021 in the aftermath of the insurrection. And the people of District 26 deserve a congressman who will fight for democracy, who will work tirelessly for them on the issues they actually give a shit about instead of this culture war nonsense, creating boogeymen and then slaying them, who has a lifelong track record of protecting endangered species and the environment, who actually lives in the district, and most importantly, can beat Jimenez. And that's Ron McGill. He is a beloved South Florida icon for 40 years, and I think has the ability to win an election. And let's be real, he's been cleaning up shit in Miami for 40 years, and I'd like him to start doing it in D.C.
But do we lose him on the show? Like, do we lose the weekly Ron McGill show? Does he have to become a politician now when he comes on? He is not at liberty to do our nonsense.
He's not capable of being a politician,
Yeah,
and he
that's
doesn't
what's
want
wonderful.
he doesn't want Billy in his living room. I really don't understand how it is. Billy's indefatigable, and Billy's trying to be the change. He wants to be the change that doesn't want to just be a complainer here. And Ron McGill would be a name recognition candidate in a community that he's Sábado Gigante famous. It's not even our show that makes him famous in that community.
And to answer your question, the short answer is no. He would. I mean, we have politicians. We interview politicians every single week on Because Miami, and he would continue, I believe, in that. But
he
role.
doesn't want to do it, though, Billy.
Well, hang on. There's another thing, too. If incidentally he should, by some miracle, join the race, I think I would be happy to offer during the race equal time to Carlos Jimenez, to his opponent, to come on the show for me to interview him. I think he would be offered the same opportunity.
Nobody is taking these offers. We continue to extend these offers. Roy continues to make the calls to these people.
How's it going, Roy?
To hold them accountable.
Not well.
Nobody wants to come on with us. The invitation is perpetually rejected, but we will keep tabs on that, and we will ask Ron why he has even agreed to meet with you, because I didn't think he was going to do that.
I think he did that as a courtesy, but a personal courtesy. But I think here's the thing. Ron has passed the first test of a good candidate, and that is he doesn't want to do it, and that is he turned us down, and that is the first test, because the people who tend to want to run for office don't tend to be the kind of people you want to elect. And Ron, but I think Ron understands the amount of good that he could do for his community, the amount of good he could do for animals, for the environment, for the Everglades, which he has committed himself to. It's his life's work. And the amount of good that he could do raising awareness on a national platform via a campaign for Congress, what he could actually do if he won and was in Congress, is extraordinary. And I didn't go in there alone. I went in there with some heavy hitters from the Democratic Party, including the woman who was the previous congressperson for that district prior to Carlos Jimenez. She lost to Jimenez by just a few points 2 years ago. And she has decided not to run again, and was there as well. And she worked with Ron at the zoo decades ago.
What was the coolest thing in McGill's house? Did you see the skulls or the animals? What was the coolest thing that you saw?
Yeah, it's like Buffalo Bill's basement in there or something. It's really, really creepy. But the coolest thing that I saw, the coolest artifact, were Shaq's shorts. Apparently, so after some game,
yes,
like championship game, like Shaq
loves
tossed
him.
his short, which is like, it's like a fucking circus tent, these things. I mean, and even as Ron McGill, who is a beast,
6'6",
he holds them up, and they look like you could wrap it around him like a comforter, like 3 or 4 times.
Shaq is very big. That is the kind of sports analysis you can only get from Billy Corben here during this hour. Before the end of the hour, we will talk to a guy who has more expertise than we do about what a sham and a fraud this Miami Bitcoin is, and we will get expertise beyond our bloviating. But
Shitcoin, Miami shitcoin.
I wanted to talk to you, since you mentioned the animals, and about Lolita, the Miami Seaquarium, the idea that she is now no longer going to be performing because she's dying, but she's too big to be moved, and it is very cruel for an animal of that size to spend 50 years in a tank performing, and they don't seem to have the money to afford the upkeep to have her have great care. She appears to be dying. There are people outside the Miami Seaquarium who've been protesting for a long time.
For decades, yeah.
And I just can't believe that any of this is still allowed to exist 50 years after it started.
And it's not. Lolita is retiring after like 52 years of not only flipping for fish literally performing for food twice a day. But this 20, she's like 20 feet long, 7,000 pounds, living in a tank for 50 years that I think is 20 feet deep. It's like her length deep. And how many gallons? It's like, it's 80 feet by 35 feet. So here's this 20-foot, 7,000-pound whale who has basically been circling. And from what we know about these creatures is they feel and they know, and she's aware that she has been effectively in solitary confinement in a prison-like space for 52 years. And we've seen how that insanity has threatened the health and safety of audiences, of trainers. If anybody saw the incredible documentary on CNN, Blackfish. And finally, she's done.
It's so infuriating.
Yeah. But the question is now, like you said, now what? What do they do with her? This is a damaged creature and probably psychologically
you can't move.
creature.
You can't. Ron McGill has told us you can't move Lolita. The shock of it would just would kill her.
Yeah,
instantly.
she'd die immediately if freed from captivity. So I mean, it's already too far gone. But I think it feels like progress, though. It feels like progress. It feels like we're in an era where if we're going to go to animal exhibition type attractions like the zoo, for example, we want to know that these animals are well cared for, that they have sufficient space, that even in captivity, they are. And in some cases, when I went to Zoo Miami the other day, these are animals that might not exist if not for the safety and protection of captivity. So there's a very specific point to preserving these otherwise endangered and threatened species. They would be extinct if not for some of these facilities. So that is not the case necessarily with these seaquariums and these types of exhibits. Like they just basically torture mammals. They torture dolphins and whales and manatees. And so I think the answer is we'll see what the new ownership. It's a new ownership that's taken over since effectively the federal government came in and said this is not the way you house an orca like this. And I don't know what the future is for Lolita. I fear it's been a tragic past, and it will be an equally tragic future. But I'd like to see this aquarium as an attraction be preserved for future generations. The problem is, I mean, even the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus stopped with the animals because it was torturous. So I don't know what comes of this aquarium. Probably condos, if I had to guess. But that's the tragedy, is yet another one of these historic roadside attractions, one of the few left in the state, in the country, certainly in our city, will be gone.
Segueing to something that isn't quite that sad, but comes from right here where we're sitting at the Clevelander Hotel on Ocean Drive. There was quite the fight over trying to shut down this area May 7th through May 21st. You have seen firsthand, we have seen firsthand, the militarization of this time period, whether it's spring break or Memorial Day weekend, where the police presence is so extreme that they're trying to get under control partying, and they were trying to get a 2 a.m. shutdown during spring break. But how did the Clevelander prevent that from happening?
Well, the Clevelander has won actually 2 lawsuits against the city of Miami Beach in just as many weeks. Which good on them. We've been talking about this for quite some time, how absolutely wrong-headed, misguided, and in fact, illegal and unconstitutional the city of Miami Beach has been behaving. The city manager, who I had high hopes for, is a total incompetent. The city commission doesn't even care about the illegal and unconstitutional shit they do. Why? Because it's not their money that they pay to defend the illegal actions. They just send the city attorney to go to court and spend taxpayer money on it, but yet they keep losing because it's totally wrong. And a judge has blocked Miami Beach's 2 a.m. alcohol sales ban that they're trying to do baby steps here. So the first thing they did was they enacted it for just like spring break, for peak weeks, March 7th through March 21st. And a judge said, nope, booze keeps flowing till 5 a.m. because them's the rules. And you can't suddenly and unfairly target these particular businesses and effectively destroy their business. And as we know from the fuckery that goes on Ocean Drive, you'd have to close bars at, I don't know, 2:30 p.m. in order to reduce crime or the insanity that goes on Ocean Drive during these peak holiday weeks and weekends. A man got murdered dining outside of an Ocean Drive restaurant with his family at 6 p.m. So what are you going to stop liquor sales at 5 p.m.? It doesn't make any sense.
And during these crazy times, there have been shootings, there have been stabbings, there have been this kitchen here at the Clevelander's been overrun by stampedes of people running away from noise and violence.
Not at 2 a.m. though. At any time, at any given time. So the problem is not the hour. The problem is the incompetence and corruption of this government and the inability of the police department and its union to evolve and create modern policing and create a plan. They cannot police 10 blocks. Ocean Drive is 10 blocks. They don't know how to do it. It's not impossible. Where there's a will, there's a way, but there is no political will here. They just kowtow to the same ancient bullshit. It's 21st century problems and it's 20th century leadership and 20th century solutions to 21st century problems. They also tried to enact some new gratuitously onerous sound law, about noise pollution laws against the Clevelander. That was the second action that they won. They have a deal that they made with the government back in the 90s that allows very specific noise guidelines, the number of decibels that you can hear from a certain distance away, and they have it down to a science. They know what to tell the DJs in terms of speaker placement, in terms of volume level, and they can go out themselves and test to see whether or not they're following the ordinances. Well, the Miami Beach wanted to make it more vague, more kind of like, well, if a cop is standing here and is arguing with his girlfriend and wants to give you shit, then they can shut you down or cite you, whatever. And a judge said, hell no. So the Clevelander has won 2 lawsuits against, or at least injunctions against the city of Miami Beach in just the last 2 weeks.
We have been talking as well about ball and chain on Calle Ocho in an area of Miami that has a lot of Hispanic and Cuban richness, and this is a club that has identified that area as something that can be vibrant and fun, and it's unusual for something like that to successfully exist where it does. And Joe Carollo, we have talked about how he appears to be really harassing this place, feeling a bit like state military in the way that some of this is happening unfairly, and they have also won recently.
And like a dictator trying to deprive them, like a communist dictator no less, trying to deprive these business owners of their private property rights. It's extraordinary. They too
South Florida is filled with people who wanted to be Fidel and couldn't be, so they try to do it here.
Yeah, and I've discovered that some of these people in government, in particular, don't hate Fidel so much as they hate that they're not Fidel, that they're not the ones that get to impose their values and their mores and their ethics, for lack of a better term, onto other people. And Joe Carollo is one of those characters. I mean, he would have been just fine, as the head of the secret police for Fidel and Raul Castro, which is exactly how he misappropriates code enforcement and the police department and other resources of the city government. And that is why the ball and chain owners filed a federal lawsuit against them that accuses the city as operating as a mafia, as a continuing criminal enterprise to deprive them. It's effectively a Castro-like government, a tropical gulag that wants to arrest their employees and shut them down. And they too have won not one but 2 rounds in federal court with the city of Miami Beach. The city of Miami. But again, perverse incentives. This isn't the money of the city attorney or the money of the commissioners. It's the money of the taxpayers. But something changed that. A judge determined that Joe Carollo, in this extrajudicial way he's been targeting these business owners, has not been acting on behalf of the city, his constituents, and their best interests, but as a personal, private villain targeting these people out of political retribution for supporting his opponent in an election 5 years ago. And what does that mean? That means he doesn't have qualified immunity. And that means that he is technically on the hook for his own legal fees, which the city taxpayers have been covering for years to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars for Ben Cuny, his private attorney. But now, if they win the lawsuit against him, which is looking very good, he would be personally liable to pay the damages. Not the city, not the taxpayers, but out of his own pocket. So that's the first thing they won. They were able to overrule qualified immunity in this case. That's petrifying for Crazy Joe. Number 2, they just yesterday Just this week, a judge put out a ruling that the city of Miami has been covering up text messages and emails in the discovery process. The judge has been ordering repeatedly the city to turn over this material so that the ball and chain attorneys can effectively prove their case. Here's the thing.
I can't believe that these poor people, I don't mean poor, but just that they're trying to run a business and they have to go through this fight and this legal expense in order to get here. It's so annoying.
And every day it's whack-a-mole. Joe Carollo will introduce a new ordinance and a new way to literally screw with them and try to put them out of business. But what this ruling says is that the city's been covering up this evidence because city employees have been using their private email and their private cell phones to do city business. But public records laws require that whatever device or whatever account or whatever number you're using to do city business, you are subject to public records. You are subject to public records requests and that transparency and accountability. And they've been covering up, they've been deliberately, and they prove this in court, ball and chain lawyers, that they've been deliberately using these private accounts, but or emails, to do city business. And the judge said, no. You have to go and collect. You have to make sure they're preserved and not destroyed, because that would be destroying evidence. And you have to gather them from those custodians who are people who work for the city, and you have to turn those over. I don't care if it's their private cell, their personal email accounts. You need to turn all that over. And that's a pretty remarkable precedent-setting thing. That's the courts codifying what we've been saying all along, which is pretty well articulated in the public records laws, the sunshine laws, as they're called in the state of Florida, that wherever you are doing public business, whether it's on your Facebook account, it's DMs on Twitter, whatever it may be, those are subject to public record laws. That's why when I text lawmakers, for example, I always behave as if this is eventually going to be public record. Sometimes I'll even say hello to people that I know will probably make the public records requests. And next week, when we talk about the Mel Reese Soccer Stadium scam and the vote that's going to happen this week on that, I'm going to read you my text messages to Miami City Commissioner Ken Russell, because they're all public records. Ain't no shame in this game. I'm sure Ken would prefer that I not share them, but I will read them live.
Look at that. He's teasing the next episode. But coming up next, we've got a guy who's going to tell you about that Miami shitcoin. Michael Bloomberg has got more expertise than we do, and he's next. Michael Bloomberg is joining us now. It's a fancy title with a lot of words in it. Director, Groundwork, Data, Urban Technology Researcher, Infrastructure, Data, Consultancy, focused on grid resilience. Good God, man. And something else. He's an expert. Why is he with us, Billy? Explain to me.
But he's not the former mayor of New York, nor
not that Michael
major
Bloomberg.
Businessman.
No, there's a lot of information, though, on here a lot of words I don't want to read. Rebooting NYC and urban tech agenda, leading research efforts to establish the country's first master's degree in urban tech.
And he was on the transition team of new New York Mayor Eric Adams on the tech team. And what's interesting about Michael is that his entire career has kind of existed right on the nexus of local government and technology. And all of a sudden, when I was poking around and exploring the MiamiCoin business, because also there's a New York coin, by the way, from the same City Coins people, Michael Bloomberg kept coming up as one of the sole kind of public skeptics about this. And again, because his expertise in his career has always been about how technology can assist and make local government more efficient, I was intrigued by his take, which, truth be told, is not that different from mine, but comes from a place of not just
actual knowledge instead of gasbagging and rage and shouting shouting about perpetual Miami fraud.
And while we're fighting against an anti-expert and anti-expertise and anti-education movement in this country, this guy is an expert.
Excellent as introduction, because you have been complaining about MiamiCoin. So thank you for joining us, Michael. And can you tell us what it is that Billy is lamenting? Because is Miami's fraud coin worse than New York's fraud coin, or it's about the same as New York's fraud coin?
They're about the same. They're the same technical structure. I think the one difference you have is the Miami fraud coin. I think that's a great way to put it, is being heavily boosted by the mayor of Miami. And that's really what concerns me the most, is that you have an elected official, a mayor, who is out there boosting something that is, it can hurt everyday people. and there's no value to it.
Why is it fraudulent? What's most fraudulent about it?
I think we need to start with what MiamiCoin is,
and what it isn't.
Yeah, well, it's a digital token, and I like to say with MiamiCoin, and crypto in general, you have this notion of Miami as a crypto city, right? And let's not conflate what a crypto city is versus a city that supports Citycoin. If the mayor wants to say, hey, we want all the crypto companies to come down to Miami and do business here, that's its own set of issues. And frankly, there's a whole bunch of bad businesses that exist out there. You know, there's subprime mortgage lenders. There's all sorts of bad businesses.
We have them all.
If you want to be a city that has those, then God bless you.
You don't mean bad businesses as in poor businesses. You mean nefarious businesses, like evil businesses.
Businesses that do bad things, right? There are mayors around the country who court businesses that do bad things because at least their residents are getting paid, right? And so those all exist. And then you have this notion of, well, there's this space called cryptocurrency. Should my city have its own crypto token? And that in and of itself is a question. But MiamiCoin is not a Miami coin. This is not issued and supported by the city. MiamiCoin is a separate private entity, has nothing to do with the city of Miami, that takes the shape of a lot of other scam coins out there. I believe that, I don't know if I could swear, but they're called shit coins in the community. And it takes the shape of these shit coins. And what it does, and the real novel thing that they've done, is they've figured we can get, just like everybody else is paying Matt Damon and Kim Kardashian, we can get the mayor of Miami to boost this scam coin. And again, what it really is just it's a bunch of lines of code. It can show up in your digital wallet, but there's nothing you can do with MiamiCoin. There's no value to MiamiCoin. And where this really becomes a problem, and it's true a lot in the crypto space, but also in the broader technology space, is when you start with some piece of technology instead of starting with a problem. This doesn't solve any problems. They've yet to solve a problem. Yet it's all over. There's 4.2 billion MiamiCoin out there.
And as we sit here today, MiamiCoin, the ruble is worth 3 times more than MiamiCoin is right now. And let's talk about that. Let's talk about if you took the mayor's advice, if you took Mayor Ponzi Bostalita, Francis Suarez's advice, and you invested in MiamiCoin back during its all-time high in September, which was about 6 cents, you would have lost about 95% of your money, while the rent in Miami has gone up over 40%. So let's talk about that for a moment. Who is investing in this? Why are they investing in this? Where does the money go?
And what are the dangers? What are the real dangers?
Other than losing 95% of your money?
Well, there's 2 ways to invest in MiamiCoin, right? You can buy it on an exchange. The exchange is listed on OKCoin as a Chinese-owned exchange founded by a guy who's previously been indicted for fraud. Or you can quote unquote mine MiamiCoin, right? The term mine it comes from Bitcoin, which involves using all of your computing power and the power of a small country to try to be the first person to guess a random number. When it comes to MiamiCoin, they use the term mining, but they use a consensus mechanism, a way of earning this coin called proof of transfer. And really all that means is proof of transferring your money into my wallet. And so MiamiCoin, in order to mine it, you need a different coin called Stacks. And Stacks goes from your wallet into a pool of other wallets. And just like a raffle, what happens is they run a random function over that and they pick a winner, and the winner gets the MiamiCoin. And these Stacks are now in other wallets. Now, one of those wallets is one that was created for the city of Miami. So 30% of all the Stacks coins that go into creating MiamiCoin go to the city of Miami. And So you ask yourself, okay, well, what's the value of stacks? How did we manage to turn that into, $5 million?
30% of nothing is still nothing.
Well, so stacks, it operates exactly the same way as MiamiCoin, except a layer up. Instead of using stacks to win MiamiCoin, you have to take Bitcoin, and you take Bitcoin and you put it into somebody else's wallet, and they run the lottery, and the winner of the lottery gets stacks. And so that's what
and ultimately
how you get this other coin.
And ultimately, this commodity is worthless. But along this chain here, people are making money and getting paid. And in fact, that 30% to the city is they've already cashed that in, so to speak, to the tune of about $5 million. So, which I guess is what they're paying for Francis Suarez to be promoting, because so somebody else is keeping 70% of this damn thing, right?
Yeah, let me. There are stacks holders are keeping 70% of this, and then Bitcoin holders are getting percentages of that.
And who are those people though? Are those money launderers, or or drug dealers, or who the hell are they?
Who's making money off of something that is otherwise worthless?
Right, the city's getting a vig, Francis is getting a vig, but who is making 70% of this? Yeah, this worthless commodity.
It all spins back up to Bitcoin. And I guess a subset of that, and there's a really great Nick Weaver out of Berkeley. He's a computer scientist, cryptographer, and he's got this wonderful presentation which he calls fraud as a service, as a new investment model for venture capital companies.
It's like Francis Suarez's motto.
They are willing to invest in all of these different coins. And then they heavily invest they have these wallets, they participate in the mining, and they got in at ground zero. And if you get in on day one, you can make a lot of money if you get in on the right thing. And of course, now they tell everybody every day is day one, right? They borrow that from Jeff Bezos. Every day is day one.
Buy the dip, bro. Buy the dip.
Get in now, because tomorrow it's going to go up, and it can only go up. Now, of course, if Dan or Billy decides they want to buy some of this coin, they're going to go around and say, oh shit, it's only worth money if I convince someone else that it's still going to continue to go up.
It is a Ponzi scheme. You're just saying not only is it worthless, it's very clearly a Ponzi scheme.
But who are these people that are profiting from this Ponzi? That's the thing. Is it a mystery? Is there any transparency? Does the city know effectively where their money is coming from? They're taking millions of dollars.
The mayor must be profiting off of this. He's the largest advocate.
Well, here's the thing. The mayor, as we've discussed several times before, is a part-time mayor, despite the fact that his compensation package is worth over $136,000. He gets $1 million in perks and security. He also has outside jobs, and one of those jobs is at a law firm where he is a real estate lobbyist and has a major blockchain and crypto practice at the law firm. So, and he also claims that his client list is secret by attorney-client privilege.
How is any of this allowed?
Because Miami. That's the name of the show.
No, but you keep telling us every week that all of this is this doesn't make any sense.
It is. So the city's gotten over $5 million.
It literally doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, dollars.
CENTS. It makes nothing.
It makes no sense, but it makes a lot of dollars. And where, Mike? Where is this money? Do we know? Okay. The city's gotten millions of dollars.
Answer the question.
Let's trace it up. Right. The biggest beneficiaries of MiamiCoin is a use for this other coin called stacks, right? So Bitcoin for its early days had two purposes. It could be used as digital gold, a store of value, and it could be used for committing crimes, right? And those were the two values of Bitcoin, and they've desperately been trying to prove.
It's speculation and illicit transactions, right? That's basically
To keep the price going up of Bitcoin, you need to say, okay, what are things we can use Bitcoin for? And one of the folks who came along said, well, we can use it for creating another coin. And that's what Stacks is.
And so to be clear though, Mike, so you have MiamiCoin, and by the time the city gets US dollars out of this, there was MiamiCoin, then there was Stacks, then there was Bitcoin, then there was US dollars. But what I want to know is where is the money? Where is the
answer the question?
I'm getting there. We're tracing it back. Yes. Okay. First of all, I think it's very important. MiamiCoin, Stacks, Bitcoin, US dollars.
This is crazy.
They are all layered on top of each other,
like a pyramid almost.
MiamiCoin,
A pyramid of prosperity.
Started and founded by folks who worked for Stacks. So they created this coin.
It's an inside job. It's an inside job.
They said Stacks, the value of Stacks is that we can create things on the Bitcoin blockchain. So what can we create? Well, how about we create another coin? Right. And so CitiCoins was founded by the former head of growth for Stacks.
Jesus.
And so these are the folks who were early invested in CitiCoins and hold a ton of these CitiCoins.
Doesn't that fly in the face of the spirit, if not the letter, of what cryptocurrency is supposed to be?
Mierda coin. Yeah, like is what we're calling it in South Florida.
Yeah, a decentralized, democratized currency. Like, forget the fact that you can't use MiamiCoin for anything, but the fact that there's like this sort of cabal, this secret cartel that profits from it, doesn't that betray the whole concept?
Yeah, there's no decentralization here, right? There's significant. There's 3 or 4 mining pools which manage and can control the Bitcoin blockchain, and that just funnels all the way down to Stacks and MiamiCoin as well. So I think there's a just like my resume that Dan read at the beginning is just a bunch of word salad. That's really what we're talking about here in the crypto space. And
Chief of Staff to the Mayor, Director of Emergency Management for the city. Yeah. I can't pronounce in Massachusetts.
It's like we're throwing darts at like a bureaucratic dartboard.
Mike, so if a municipality did have actual good intentions in mind, would there be a value in a city issuing their own coin? Like, is there somewhere in this failed idea a good idea?
Yeah. I think it's a great point, because that's also what the CitiCoin boosters lean into. They lean into a lot of these good points, right? They always start by talking about wanting to solve real problems. The problem is they didn't start with a problem, and so. There's 2 things. One is, what does a good token look like? But let's just quickly talk about what a terrible token looks like. Let's talk about one that ends up it's minting millions of new coins every day. We talk about crypto as a solution to inflation. You can't use this coin for anything yet, and already there's over 4 billion of them. Now imagine if you could pay for something with it tomorrow. You'd have this massive inflationary challenge. Oh, and by the way, if you're a resident of Miami, you'd have to buy it from some person in South Korea or Australia who owns all of this, because it's not owned locally. And so that's what a bad local currency looks like. I don't know if it's on there, but I used to sit on the board of a local currency called Berkshires, and it's founded in some fundamental economic principles of wanting to support local economy, that you utilize a local currency because it keeps money circulating locally, less money out the door to Amazon, more money to local businesses. And so, yeah, there are folks out there who are talking about, okay, what does a digital version of this look like? And digital versions of this, or even paper versions which exist out there, it's essentially like a local gift card, right? To keep as much money circulating local. So fundamentals of that is you want to make sure that the holders of it are local. You want to have it pegged to some value of production. It can be the US dollar is common, but in Ithaca, it was volunteering hours. If you volunteered, you would get a certain amount of this local currency. Whereas in MiamiCoin, it's just tied to a basic math problem that says we're going to produce millions of these every day, regardless of the fact of whether it has value. So there's reasons for, if a city wanted to have a local currency. There were many of these in the wake of the Great Depression in the 1930s to try to stimulate the economy, create liquidity. But none of those are being utilized by this effort.
Mike, one last question. After 7 months of hustling this imaginary coin, Francis Suarez last month finally admitted, while the coin was in a death spiral.
Real pioneers sometimes fail, is what some version of what he said. That
right. Yeah, he says, I don't know whether it's going to work or not. And he said that it's not his place as an elected official to be promoting the coin or giving investment advice, despite the fact, of course, that if anybody was paying a modicum of attention would have known that he was hawking this thing, like I said, for at least 7 months from its launch last July. But he also goes further with his nonsense to claim that he doesn't obsess over price when it comes to crypto. He doesn't treat it like trading stocks or other form of speculative investment, claiming that he'd rather focus on the underlying blockchain technology and its potential to change the way currency is viewed by average people in the government. The problem is, not only do I think he doesn't know what that means, it also shows a fundamental, I think, lack of understanding of what this market is. We've already established that a lot of this market, even for the legitimate cryptocurrencies that people can actually trade for goods and services, for which there is some sort of function, a lot of it still is just speculation, money laundering, and illicit transactions. So, and we know from a lot of the traders of this, their social media consists entirely of screen craps. That was a Freudian slip. Screen caps of graphs going up to the moon, right? You know, and so I guess my question is does he even understand what he's selling? Does he believe his own bullshit, or is he just like the idea that that you don't obsess over price when the thing is lost 95% of his value, and there is no, you cannot change the way that average people in the government views currency when A, it isn't a currency, and B, it's worthless. And people would have lost their shirts by now if they invested in this. And it is an investment, right? It is something
what
that should be
the hell is
regulated.
your question?
No, he knows my question.
It's here's the point. Here's actually what I'm gonna tip my cap to Mayor Suarez here. The one thing
You're
that
not
he has
wearing
gotten
a
right,
cap.
I usually do, in case you were wondering. The one thing he has gotten right is whether the price goes up or down does not matter to Suarez. You know, he doesn't care if the price of this goes up. What matters is people mining. Now, miners might stop mining, and again, we established here that mining is giving some other form of money to get this new form of fake money. Now, if they feel that there's no fake money use for this fake money on the horizon, they might stop mining. The city makes money so long as people keep mining. And so he wants to tease people. He wants to promote this. He wants to say that this is going to have a ton of value to get as much of that at the end. And then all of a sudden there's going to be billions, there already are billions of these useless coins that have no value. And he will have gotten the city a little bit of money out of it, which is nice. Unfortunately, anyone in the city of Miami or anywhere else who's participated in this will have lost a lot of money.
And therein lies the problem with government in general. If we lose everything, Francis Suarez still gets paid irregardless.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mike. Thank you for being on with us.
Happy to be here, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Mike.